Hey all, here is a replay version of the most recent live stream Q&A on all things Social Security that occurs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is with all the little silences carved out of it. So I hope it's an easier listen for those who are doing the replay versus being there live. And we'd love to see you live. So feel free to pop in. Bye-bye now. Hey guys, just let me know if you can hear me. Hope you're all doing well. Crazy, crazy, crazy times. All right. Hey, Michelle, I see you're there. I see you at the bottom of the scroll. You can hear me. I love it. Thank you. You're the best. What have you guys been up to? It's been a crazy another week. I will say my friend with the trouble, I'm gonna have to soon extricate myself from that. So I've reached out my feelers to all probably enough relevant people in state agencies and local, including the police department, just to let them know that I have to step away. It's been almost exactly a month due to concerns for my safety and my family's safety. But as I said to my husband today, who, as you know, is far away during the week, I am not suicidal. So if I disappear, it's not that way. And my poor friend. So I will be probably trying to always reach out if any of them call me, those agencies still, because a bunch of assessments have gone on. There's doctor appointments she has to get to, and I said, you guys have to take her there. So we'll see. I know you guys sometimes some of you have to deal with this kind of local assistance type of stuff when something goes very bad and someone doesn't have a buttload of money to be able to, do things for themselves. It's just a bad place to be in. And it's been a difficult and painful journey. Everything's status quo right now, but that's obviously going to come to an end when, money runs out. I know mine has. So that's where we're at. That was pretty much my whole morning was making sure that was as best I could, putting out the alarms again to these agencies saying, all right, now I'm out. So you got to really take over. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. Okay. I'm not even going to go into, like last week, I don't think I did either, what's coming up on the YouTube channels, because I don't even have it in front of me. It's all kind of just rolling without me for this week, but they are coming out, so nothing's going to be missed. So no worries there. So let's get to it, okay? I see a bunch of people with some comments, so I thank you guys for getting here early. I see Derek Heron. Am I saying that right, Derek? Came in first. Oh, look at you. They let you put posts as early as 7 in the morning. That's awesome. I appreciate you doing that, because I like to see stuff to roll off the top as soon as we get going, instead of saying, hey, does anybody have a question? I see SFMC, who's a new member. Wow, okay, a new member. I appreciate. Definitely chime in any questions you have, SF, which I think you did. So I'm just going to scroll down. I will go back to the top. I just want to say hi to everyone who's here in such a timely fashion. I see George Graham. Hey, bud. I will get to your question, of course. I see Dimple from Ohio. Hi again, Dimple. And then we have a Earth One with an interesting spelling from New Orleans. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here timely. Michelle, of course, and letting me know that you can hear me. That's great. We've got a user from looks like from Arkansas, an anonymous user, which is totally fine. I will respond to that when I get down to there. Steve 56. Hey there, Steve. Good to see you. Yeah, Dimple, you're right. There's almost so much you can do for some people. Yeah. Money runs out, many thousands of dollars later. There are some not so nice people, let's just put it that way, have a little revenge or whatever, and don't want the person helped. It's crazy what people do to each other. Okay, Virginia's here. Hi, Virginia. Good morning. Good morning to you too, Chica. All right, I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Let's go. Eric says, hello, I'm waiting for medical consultants now. I hope they approve me soon. Okay, so it sounds like you're waiting for a consultative exam. Have they been set up yet, Eric? Or are you just assuming that they're going to be? Sometimes the SSA we'll just send you a letter saying, we just want to know if you're going to be willing to go. I think they do that just to see if they can get something positive. I'm sure half the people ignore them when they do that or don't even get the letters, but they get my whole situation in the background is flipped. Interesting. Everything seems wiped out, but I think it's because I had to do a reset like a week ago. Maybe that's why. A lot of stuff is not the same. Yeah, so if you said you're waiting for it, I don't know if that means you're waiting to get scheduled or you haven't scheduled and you're just waiting for your time to go, but good luck with that. I do have a couple of videos on things to, consider when you're heading into a other physical or mental consultative exam, Derek. So if you want to look at those, haven't followed up with those recently. I don't know that anything's really changed though, so why reinvent the wheel, right? But I even give them to my clients so that they know just kind of what to expect and what to be aware of and how to be themselves and not. The big thing is don't pretend you're better off than you are. I know some people are very personal and keep their limitations or pain symptoms kind of downplayed. I'd say that's the majority of people I work with, and they're just troopers, and it's just not the place to do it. You don't want to exaggerate either. I'm just saying, but don't be Superman or Superwoman. So SF is in the house. So this is F. Does that stand for? It's not Marine Corps by chance, is it? 98. So let's see. After being denied in recon, is there any possible way to see on what basis they actually denied me for? The letter tells you nothing. I know, right? They're very canned. Wouldn't there be a paper trail on their end? An attorney see? An attorney who's your appointed representative and has been connected by proper processing of their documents by the field office would get them connected to the Electronic Records Express. It's also, I think, also referred to as ARS, Appointed Representative Services. I think we use them kind of interchangeably, but an attorney generally can't do that. That's your private information, and it's all got to go through the SSA, pressing certain buttons. This is why it's kind of interesting. It's obviously at least a two-parter, because when we send in representation documents to jump on board for a case, sometimes the SSA will acknowledge that you're the rep and give a letter to that, but then they still never press the buttons to connect you to the ERE, which is where the DDS is and where all that stuff is. So that's very frustrating. It doesn't happen on every case, but I feel like it almost happens on half, and I'm probably exaggerating, but that's what it feels like, because it's very burdensome to overcome. It takes lots of letters. Clients got to call. Sometimes you're hitting a brick wall and a bunch of incompetent whatever on the other end, and you have to get in touch with your senator. It's nuts. But you can, and you'll have to be the squeaky wheel here, contact the field office, use the 3288. It is the form to request any document, and you're going to ask for the DDE, that's Disability Determination Explanation. I know we've talked about this before. I don't know if there's a separate video on it, but we've talked about it here. They sometimes don't process those 3288s in a timely fashion, so you're going to want to call, and you should be able to get that. There's no reason why they can't send it to you same day. They just don't tend to. And they can, send it up to your SSA portal if they chose to. They don't even have to email it, and certainly not mail it to you, right? But that will give you more than meat. SF goes on to say, also, what's the ALJ landscape looking like? Are they getting tougher recently? Not in my book. We've had some fabulous wins for even younger people in the last week. So I don't think that changes because the law has not changed. And they're getting things a little more streamlined, so there's less waste, like people doing stupid things like recipe creations for the SSA. Instead, they're doing customer-facing things. So it would appear that the numbers we've seen published, like we saw them from the middle of the summer. I haven't seen anything since, or at least I haven't read it. If it's come across my desk, I've been a little over busy. They had sped up things by about 25% since like a year ago, because of a lot of the technologies that they're using now that we're just kind of sitting there getting wasted. They've really kind of honed them up. So hopefully that will continue, and they will get even better, because they have a long uphill to dig out of the, I don't even know what you want to call it, ravine that SSA had been in for too many years to count, of inefficiencies and not using technology the way they should be and could be, and the private sector is using, and even little old, us over here. I can only imagine it can get better, unless, things change later and they pull back on doing that kind of stuff, because torture's fun, I guess. Okay, George. Hi, George. Oh, you have a new picture, George. Is that really you? If it is, it's much nicer than, not that I don't like the cartoon, that's very cute, but George says, good day, Stephanie. Do you think CDRs are being done right now during government shutdown? By the way, I finally put a photo. Oh, that is you. Oh, nice to see you. I see what your specs are. Those like aviator glasses? Terminator? I don't know. My family members all has those too. It's so funny. They're very nice. Okay. And I know I put something out on this recently, George. I believe, oh my God, I can't remember the details. I'm going to misstate it. I didn't study it before I came on here. I didn't know your question would be here, but I laid out the details because it came out in writing exactly what's going on with that. I keep getting all like cattywampus here. It's because they changed don't touch my stuff. So I think certain things can be slowed up, but it was very detail specific. So some things will be going on, some things won't. So I don't want to speak out of turn, George. There is a recent video. I'm guessing it had to be a standalone because it's recent information. It wasn't like a response to a Q&A and then attaching more information video. So find it, I'll put the link in the regular comments that I normally post things in, or maybe even here, if I don't get myself lost in the weeds. But incidentally, I also saw that there was this whole other community section of posts that I never saw before, but the YouTube has changed their layout also from this perspective. And I'm like, there's people that posted like 3 months ago. I'm like, why are they never up when in my community feed posts where I do my normal responding? I don't know. So I apologize to anyone who did that, because as most of you know, I get to these things sometimes same day, but certainly within a few days, sometimes it's very late at night when I'm closing up, but I get to them. But those were never seen, so they weren't gotten to. And I really don't know where they come from and why they're not in with the other ones. It's like very strange. And I see Dimple again. Hello, Dimple from Ohio. And there's Earth One, live from New Orleans. And then Michelle, good morning. We can hear you. That's right. Okay. User. All right. So this is user JF. I think it's a JF. Do you do Arkansas SS? Yeah. So here's the deal. SS is not Social Security. It's federal. It's not state. So there's nothing state about it, except that if I happen to file a case with the federal government that happens to be located in Arkansas, they're going to use Arkansas state workers. It's outsourced to the feds because they know all the doctors and offices, and they're better equipped to get information from the providers, because they, when a claimant has a typo on the address, these guys are going to know what entity it is. So that is the extent to which the state is involved. They outsource their people to do this federal work, but the laws are all federal. So what I do, for the last 20 years, Social Security work, it's wherever the person is. It's all fine. I mean, I have plenty, obviously, in my local or regional area. Some people, I guess, are under the impression that you have to stay local like you would if you're doing a divorce, but it's not true with Social Security at all. Plus, everything runs by technology, as you probably know. So there is that. But yes, I do. Steve says, good afternoon. Hi, Steve. Yep, you're right there, Dimple. Only so much you can do for people, and it's just a little bit uncomfortable at this point. 99% not her, It's interlopers trying to make difficulties. Okay, Steve says, just moved to step 4 from FQR today. Fingers crossed. Yeah, you're going to know very soon, Steve. And like I said, FQRs are mostly, I think, very positive. But we have heard from a couple of people on here, I think, that they had their FQR and then they were denied. But it seems to be not that many. And those folks probably have a pretty strong case, and something was just too close for the FQR people, or something was missed and then it was not mediable. From what I can understand, don't think I posted this yet, but I was reading more yesterday. Oh, I did share it to somebody, I should say. They can either send it back to DDS and say, you forgot this, what you have to do here. So go back and do it and then make your decision. And they can do it. And then probably the person feels the way they do, and it's still going to be an award. But other times they can say, you made this mistake and you have to deny, something to that effect. Virginia says, good morning, Chica. Oh, I said that. I saw that before. Hi, Virginia. Good morning, Chica. Or good afternoon for me. Justin Zane. Good to see you. You're Justin Zane. I'm freaked out about CEs. Don't be. They're nothing. Nothing. Be yourself. If you have one upcoming and you haven't watched those videos, if you haven't gotten it scheduled yet, that might be why you haven't gotten them personally, Justin, but you will. And if something didn't get to you, let me know. Michelle says, hi, my claim was submitted to DDS by my local on 9/6. You told me that it looks like no adjuster has been assigned yet. What amount of wait time is unreasonable? It's quite a while, unfortunately, because there's people that are 6 months. Some of these people here have been 8 months, and it's something that we don't have. I think part of it is that in theory, the dyers will be bumped first, probably, and get their adjudicator first, although I've seen some priority cases, I should say, still have to wait. And then I see other people that boom, boom, they get a DDS person right away. So it might depend on how effective the state is at that time. Everyone's got their states aren't shut down, but, some states are really incompetent, So I wish I could say something more definitive, but unfortunately I can't. I would say maybe and this is if it doesn't happen sooner. It is up there at least. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn here, and I'd be curious of what my colleagues are doing. At what point do you say, time to contact the congressperson? Because I know some people that are waiting so long, I don't know that that's necessarily helpful, because now sometimes they're saying, yeah, we know she's here in line where she's supposed to be, vis-a-vis everybody else. But maybe in 16 weeks, what is that, 4 months? I wish I had a more definitive answer for you. We've been dealing with this dilemma for too many years to count now. We just keep pushing that. And also, if you find that there is a dire, like something that falls into one of those dire situations, that would be like eviction, mortgage foreclosure has been started They don't really care if you're talking that it's going to be. They want to see the legal documents. That can be used as evidence of dire. So give that some thought. I hope that's not the case. And I know it's frustrating, Michelle. The only reason I don't pull my hair out, Michelle, is because I used to do that. The first few years I practiced, I would be like hot under the collar, pulling my hair out because all the things you have to deal with when you deal with City Hall and the government. I realized that if I kept doing that, I'd have to change jobs. Like, you just have to learn how to be copacetic about it and just keep pushing diligently. It is a DDS. It's not at the field office. So calling the field office is not in any way helpful. They have no supervision over that. But we'll see if there's something, because part of me was wondering, like, we don't really have managers' contact information at DDS, so it's not like we can go to the manager and be like, in which case we're going to say, she's in line. She's in line. What do you want her to do? Bump in front of other people? And it's kind of like, yeah, I do. But obviously that's not going to happen. So I don't know. We'll see. It's such a potentially changing landscape. So hopefully it will change for the better due to some of the improvements. That's all I can hope for. Dimple says, I saw my rheumatologist yesterday, explained my situation to her, and she is supportive and believes that I have a good case for SSDI. Good for her. I wish she was a lawyer. I know she doesn't have any say in approval, but glad she's on board. Absolutely. Just as a more of an open share for everybody else, when you have a doctor who obviously doesn't know the rules and they screw up notoriously, which is why I always say don't ask them for a letter, because they're going to say, there's a 90% chance they're going to say something that inadvertently shoots your case down because they don't know those the fine little needle threading you have to do, particularly like if you're dealing with a grid situation that you could use. They screw those up all the time. I guess it's kind of like that little information. Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And so they need to stick to their pay grade unless they are willing to actually speak to the attorney, which usually they're not. But like Dimple's saying, if they are on board, generally, that means they have good intentions. And if that's true, and she's not just blowing smoke up your rear side, Dimple, then it's very possible that someone like that is willing to answer some very tailored questions on paper. That could be direct evidence in addition to her hopefully well-articulated medical records that really show the limitations. The more the doctors actually describe the person as a real person with their limitations, the better the records are for proving these legal needs in life, like such as SSD qualification and SSI, which has the same disability definition. But so many, we talked about this before, the poor record keeping, the automated computer systems that default to within normal limits, unless you specifically, tell them that day, I have this complaint, which really, it should be a little more broader than that. Like, what's your problems generally? It's not just today. It's like, what was going on last week that comes up every 4 days? Or you have to not have a lazy recorder, which could be a medical assistant or the doctor or the nurse or whoever. Who knows? I harp on this all the time because I read thousands of pages of medical records every week. And of course, in the throes of it right now with that situation I was discussing, and I see how poor it is. So don't even get me started, Justin Zane says, am I more likely headed towards denial with CEs as opposed to no CE? Good question. I watched a couple of your vids concerning CE and got the impression that I am close to SOL. Do you mean shit out of luck? If a CE has been scheduled. I will say that's not true, that last part. However, sometimes your records are so good and you've been such a diligent person getting everything as fast as we're always trying to get people to scramble to get their evidence, through their choices of treatment and, how willing they are to do the inconveniences of going to all that stuff. Sometimes when there's no CE, it's because the SSA has enough without it, because your doctors have been diligent and you have been diligent. And the SSA and or your attorney has been diligent in getting those things in front of them. So no CE is not necessarily none bad. However, when you have a CE, that doesn't mean bad either. It means it could mean, don't get me wrong, it could mean those records are terrible. We don't see any reason to think he or she is disabled. We got to cover our butt and send them to a CE at our expense and boom, then we deny. There's that. But I think a lot of the time it's because they see it's possible, but the doctors being such crappy little recorders, I make enemies, can you tell? They want to see if they're some of the objective things, by the way, from the examining doctor, like he tests your range of motion, your ability to do heel to toe. This is for physical stuff, of course. And does he describe that you had pain after a certain degree, the shoulder hurt or whatever the problem is for a particular individual, and how so the CE can be really important in that. if you already have stuff that kind of suggests you might be disabled, but it's not quite enough for them to be sure. So that's a hedgy question. I mean, a hedgy answer, I know, but that's the way I think about it. Virginia Gomez says, what is the viewing waiting time for an appeals counsel with a dire needs letter? Depends if it's actually dire need, number one. A lot of people think they're dire need and they're not under the law, and they don't give us a viewing waiting time. So I can't answer that. There is no, when they say dire, that makes you priority over others that aren't. But if there's 500,000 before you with the same category of priority, you're still going to be waiting. So it would depend on what that docket is, I'm presuming. Who's on vacation, who's not. Are they understaffed? Are they not understaffed? So it's the way it is. Jay, is it Weidenbeck? Hey, I know your face. Is that the same face? Is that you? Changing your name again? Okay. She said, hello, pain makes me up and I go to the gym at 1 a.m. and do a 30-minute walk, then come back home and rest. Well, 30 minutes walk hurt my case. Every time I do a 30-minute walk, I do a 2-hour lay down. First of all, is anybody even going to know about it? It's not like medical treatment. It's not like you have to report that. If a judge asks you, the SSA never asks you to go to the gym and what time and what do you do? They don't ask that. If a judge asks you, do you go to a gym? I suggest you be honest about it. But I don't typically see that. And of course, if you say, due to my insomnia, I'm up at in the wee hours, and you've probably been told, I'm guessing, by your doctor that walking and building up that stamina and strength is good for you. So if you can muster through it despite the pain, it might be a positive thing to do. And if so, when you explain it, I would say the doctor recommended that I try to get myself to work up to 30 minutes of gentle walking, on a daily basis, if ever possible. And then you could say, and so I have been working to try to get up to 30 minutes. If you do it every day, you do it every day. I don't know if you do it every day. And then I would definitely say, and this could be in a function report or something, I then must go lie down horizontal for 2+ hours to help bring the pain back to baseline. So I'm happy to spell out those details that are helpful, right? Temple says, since I have been seeing the same rheumatologist for around 15 years, should I seek a second opinion prior to filing? Not necessarily. It can't hurt, but most people don't have two rheumatologists. I see second opinions a lot with surgical consults. Surgery is scary, so people, before they do it, they kind of want to know, does the second doctor think I should too? But again, it won't hurt you as long as that second, because once you do it, you got to submit it. If it's good, bad, or ugly, you've got to submit it. That is the law, or the regulation, I should say. I mean, I think your medical impairments are pretty severe, so I can't imagine it would be to your detriment to do it. And it could then be to your benefit. Just know that, those risks, depending on the quality of that rheumatologist. I think rheumatologists, with the exception of the fibromyalgia cases, which completely get undeserved disrespect, I think the rheumatologists really have a lot of compassion for the people that have the serious rheumatological and sometimes they do a bit of autoimmune too problems. So it's probably not all, but I just kind of get the sense from, and I have a lot of them, floating through the practice. I get the sense that they are well aware of how serious the impairments are in their field. They probably are more sympathetic than, say, a musculoskeletal person, because everybody complains of a bad back. So they seem to be a little bit more on the kind of playing it down side. Not all. Again, not all. There's some so terrific doctors that don't have that kind of downplaying element to their personalities. Jay Weidenbach says, Monday I have my 3rd back surgery. We'll be thinking about you. Prayer for you there, Jay. That's a lot. And you know what never hurts your case, because it shows how the other ones did not do the job. And for someone to get surgery, that particular impairment's got to be really severe. So for you, seriously, it's fine. Kevin Johnson's in the house. Hello from Tennessee. Just picked up meds. Still enjoying your live stream. Good to see you, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. Always good to see you stopping in. Jesus Gutierrez. Am I saying that right? Nice to see you. Jesus, I have a CE exam coming up. Should I bring my over-the-counter medications? Did you see over-the-counter? Good. It won't hurt. The letter, does the letter just say to bring the prescription stuff? Well, often they'll say that. I say if you're bringing the bag of the stuff anyway, bring the Earth says, I keep wanting to say Earthal because of the one there. Maybe it is Earthal. Oops, sorry. Whichever one it is. All good. You're welcome with whatever name you pronounce it as. Do you think the grid rules will change for 50 to 60-year-olds? Not anytime soon. I know they tried to do that about over 20 years ago. And it came up for public comment and everyone shot it down. So there's been no request for a proposed amendment. I know you're seeing clickbait stuff out there and the very political landscape of, information that has not been substantiated at all, even in the articles. It's so funny. I mean, I know how to read things and parse things out. It's been from decades of, and previous to doing this kind of work, even evaluating deposition transcripts, finding their inconsistencies and finding the way people speak, that you can draw information from their choice of words. And it's so funny that this may happen. This may happen. This anonymous source, this former SSA person says, I mean, come on. Legitimate people do not go anonymous, it's just not the way it is. That's why there's so many legitimate people so I'm going to talk about it. And if you want to know for sure, first of all, in case you were unaware, guys, the fact that they have to consider age is in Congress's statute. That's not a regulation. Now, how they use the grids is. So that's why they could do, as they tried to do in the early 2000s, and then they gave up and pulled it back. And then in 2011, and this wasn't that hurtful, under that particular administration, they decided to expedite the vocational aspect at step 5. And basically, how step 4 is, can you do prior work? And step 5 is, step 4, can you do your prior work? Step 5, can you do other work? If you can't do your prior work, can you do other work? And they decided to expedite where they could skip the question of whether you can do your prior work if they already know they have jobs under the RFC they decided for you near the step 3 stage, in between step 3 and step 4, really, and they already know that your RFC says there's other jobs you can do, they made a rule change under that administration to just skip over whether he could do his prior work. Let's just jump right to the fact that he can do other work. And, in all fairness, it's just getting to the denial faster. That would be the same even if they find you can't do your prior work, they already found that you could do, at step 5, you can do other work. And so you're denied. It wasn't really an unfair, I don't think, expedition. Every time they kick out a step, they save labor hours. So that one was one that really doesn't change the outcome. So I was kind of okay with it. There's been no proposal to adjust grids by the SSA at all. So you just got to be careful what you're reading, guys. It's the same thing I say all the time. There's going to be dividers, fearmongerers, clickbaiters, and you just got to not let them lead you by the nose. You got to just say no. And when you read what they say and you click on, I have colleagues that do this. I don't want to say for a living, but it's in the journalism field and others where they know how to parse that out. And I've learned over the years myself very well how to do it, although it's not my forte like it is theirs. So I just do it for myself so I know. And that's how I don't start jumping up and down screaming every time someone says, rumors have it. Okay, so where's the evidence? They're not, I didn't say there, no, and they have none. Anyone can say there's a rumor about something. I could say it right now about anything I want. It's called freedom of speech. I think it's really inappropriate when it's spreading blatant disinformation, but it is what it is. And the White House has even come out with a statement that, heck no, we're not doing anything like that. And our only thing we have on the table is eliminating the fraud, which is not the grids. So I'd say don't borrow trouble until there's actually a reason to, because you're just going to drive yourselves crazy. And which, the stress of doing that, it hurts our bodies. It hurts our minds. It creates additional illness. I wouldn't invite trouble when there is no evidence of it yet. Justin says, Justin, hi, Justin. Hi, Stephanie, been waiting for my award letter. Does it come first or do payments come first? It can vary. Sometimes the payment will pop, like the back payment will come up and the person didn't even know they won. That would usually be on initial and recon. Yeah, so it can be either way. Either way. Yeah, I wonder what it's going to be like for you. Hopefully it'll be soon though. Because then you have your back benefits check, assuming you have one. And then your perspectives. I would say sometimes the perspectives start first because it hits the new month. They know what everything's downclad and they start popping those out while they're still figuring out the back benefits. That's a good question, Justin. Hey. Morning, everyone from California. SF says, what is your office wait list looking for representing SDI recon denials, especially for someone who, we don't have a barrier to something that's a recon denial per se, but you have to hop to it, obviously, because you're going to be heading towards hearing. There is certain categories that are consistently full, but you'd have to fill out the evaluation so it can go through that. And then if it passes those, it comes straight to me. And then I make a phone call. So you can feel free to do that. And actually say who you are in here, like your screen name, when you fill that out. And I should type it in here, but I don't even have it up. Maybe I'll get that. I'll give you the link for the free eval form. It's very short, so we can get the initial review, because no one wants to waste your time if there's no opening in a particular always overcrowded area. So let me get that for you. I don't want to close anything out accidentally. Sometimes I get sticky fingers. All right. So this one that's going to be at the bottom now, I guess, SF is the one. And anyone's free to fill it out. Okay. Is this iExpress 13? That's interesting. I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you. Cute little picture there with the heart cloud. Is that what that is? Hello, my primary ordered balance and physical therapy. I can't afford the copay. Will this hurt my case? Put it this way. Wherever your case is at now, it's not going to make it stronger. So if you have kind of a not winning case now, guess what? By not doing it, I don't know if there's a way. I can't judge your finances. I always do suggest, though, if there's any bills that are not mandatory survivor bills, maybe you want to make this a priority and not those. I can't speak to your finances or your personal choices, but sometimes people maybe don't try hard enough, and I'm not saying that's you at all. I don't know your situation, and they are not prioritizing what they need to do for their case. And as a result, they lose whatever. Let's say they were going to get $2,000 a month into perpetuity. They lose that opportunity because they lose their case. And then if it's further enough along, you don't have another shot at the apple. You can't file again. So I just don't like to see that potential. So sometimes people ask their loved ones if they haven't burned those bridges for just the copays, and you can do a loan and say, oh, when I prevail or get back on my feet in any way, I will pay this back. You got to figure out your own strategy, but I'm sorry it's that hard for you. I mean, I get it. Hi, Jeanette. I had psych evaluation, but not a physical exam from SSD yet. Is that normal? Well, that would depend. Either you don't have a physical case, but it sounds like you do because you're surprised that they haven't done that yet. I don't know. I don't want to get hopeful, but if your physical stuff spells out, let me just give a hypothetical here. Let's say your physical stuff spells out that you can't do more than sedentary work. And let's say you are over 50, under 55, or even over 55. So your physical stuff is pretty clear just from your treating records. So they don't need they already know, they've already decided that there's enough information to figure out your RFC. And let's say you had a high-end, high-skilled job, but that was sedentary. It was a sedentary high-skilled job. Well, just because you're relegated to sedentary doesn't knock out that job, correct? But what if you also have significant, not totally limiting anxiety, but you have enough where it really distracts you. You get a little forgetful, because when we're filled with anxiety, our heads are filled with stuff. It's very hard to retain other stuff, apply it properly, and make good decisions and stuff like that. So if you have like a kind of a durational anxiety issue, which could have developed just because of the fact of your impairments and loss of job or whatever, it doesn't have to be a mental illness that came up organically, or mental condition, whichever way you want to look at it. So if you can prove that your mental state right now includes some moderate anxiety that damages your concentration and maybe your retention and your ability to like really kind of think on your feet without being a little bit like, that might be, that in itself could be the thing that keeps you from doing that high skilled sedentary job that you could otherwise do, despite the fact that you can't do a lighter, heavier job now because you have physical impairments, but you were able to do the sedentary. So that psych eval would be because either you didn't have psych treatment, but you asserted maybe concentration issues on your application or your function report where it's asked, or they saw it alluded to in your medical records, even if you weren't talking about it, or they think they see it in there, but it's kind of borderline. So they want to double check and make sure and have their psych eval person review you, give you a CE to see. But I'm just giving you a scenario of which kind of case having that distractibility is going to be so important for. If you are only an unskilled worker before in your past relevant work period, you don't really need to prove that you have poor concentration or whatever, because there's no transferability of skills anyway, because they can only come if you had a skilled or semi-skilled job. And then you have to prove that you can't do skilled or semi-skilled. So it can be normal. I mean, there's no normal. Every case is different on how they decide what to do. Sometimes, it could even be that they're going to schedule a physical and they just didn't get around to it. But that's usually they come together. So I don't know what your situation is, but fingers crossed for you, Jeanette, because It really varies on the case and what that little needle threading is required for you to prevail. Tayyum says, initial decision made by DDS on 10/20. Okay. My SSA site shows disability in step 4 at local office. That's just your non-medical review probably. And SSI denied. SSI, Tayyum, is the one that requires not just disability, but financial. So even if your disability was found, if your financial was you had too much money, you would be denied the SSI. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're denied on the SSD, but because we don't know about the disability determination. Does National Hotline Desk allow to tell claimants DDS decision before letter? I don't know. The only one way to find out, call 1-800-772-1213. Find out. I don't know what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. But sometimes you don't get a lot of information from them. It's pretty sad. Hey, Maeve. How are you, my dear? Regarding CE, actually confused, annoyed by the CE reports as he indicated no issue. Even lied about non-subjective things. I can stand and walk on toes and heels was a bold lie. And we have, I don't know if you've seen him, Maeve. Obviously, it didn't matter for your purposes, thank God. But yeah, still approved. So yeah, it is interesting. Sometimes if the case, sometimes like you see a report and you're like, that is BS. I mean, let's say they never even had you do walking on the toe to heel and he said you could do it. I've seen things like that with person like, they didn't have me do that. Or they say, I've talked about this before, guys, at a CE, they never, you're alone in the room when they say, okay, get into this gown or get up on the table, whatever. You do it in whichever way you can manage it. Don't know if you had to like huff and puff or roll on your side to get up there because of you can't do the old leg, like whatever, or can't do the hop up. I've seen where it'll say they had no, in the report, no problem getting on the examining table. And the person, my client will say, they weren't in the room. I did get up on it. It was difficult, but they weren't in the room. They'll also say no difficulty undressing to get in the gown. And again, when is that ever done with anybody in the room? And they don't have cameras in there. So you see these, I think it's because they have canned reports and they just leave it all and they only change a few things. And it's therefore defamatory, dare I say it, and because it's untrue and it can financially damage you significantly if the SSA choose to embrace it. So what we do then, and this is only if the case doesn't go south. So like Maeve, case didn't go south. Sometimes you shut your mouth until you see if the SSA is going to give this BS any weight. You wait patiently while you angst about what it says, and then see if everything else that has been done on the case, all the arguments, all the, connecting the legal to the medical records that exist from treaters, does that all conjoin so the SSA does not give weight to their CE person? And that, as you could see, is probably a wise strategy. Versus rocking the boat. I won't rock the boat on my people when we're still waiting for the answer. If the answer goes south, then I start burning everybody who participated in it. You know what I mean? I'll call out that CE and I'll report them and say, this is what the client says. Never did this, and this. Falsely reported in that report over there. Boom. What the SSA does with it, I don't know. I mean, where are their sources on investigating that kind of stuff? I know they've limited investigation sources, but I don't know how much you have to investigate it. You can actually look, they already know that they didn't go with that person's opinion, right? So anyway, it's good to see you, Maeve. Justin Zane, good stuff. Got to hobble into PT session. Good. Hobble it is. Don't pretend you're not hobbling. And thank you, Justin Zane, for the kudos. I appreciate. What do they say? Like, share, and subscribe, right, guys? Bada bing. All right. Happy day. Oh, happy day. You remind me of my late step-grandmother-in-law. She said, hi, denied at initial in February. I'm sorry to hear that, Happy. Turned 55 in September. Didn't appeal. Tried unsuccessful work attempt for 6 months. Did you make it to the 6 months, Happy? Or did you make it 5 months and 29 days? Or did you make it more than 6 months? Like, exactly. I'd be curious. Now below SGA, can I reopen? Likely not. Well, it depends. That unsuccessful work attempt. And it depends. To reopen, you have to show that there's something missing. Generally, this is general, guys. She wants to reopen her initial because she never appealed a denial. And I commend you for trying to get back to work, Happy. I mean, you're obviously a worker who has a strong work ethic. And a lot of people do this. And on a positive note, depending on which years your prior work existed on, you probably bought yourself another year of DLI, which is fantastic. Whether you can reopen, you file a new and you ask them to reopen the old one, you're going to want to point to missing evidence. Just say they didn't have this, this, and this, and I told them about it. Or maybe I forgot to tell them because but sometimes they just failed to get something because maybe your doctor didn't send it and they eventually have to make a decision. that might be a grounds for reopening. If you want an attorney from the start, happy, send in that free eval. I think sometimes when you start off the bat with somebody, and I know some lawyers refuse to help from the beginning, there are reasons for that. I've discussed it elsewhere. I know we're not like that, and other people aren't either. So you can find other attorneys also that would take it on initial. But one way or the other, I think it's helpful. If they do what I think they're supposed to do, they're going to steer you exactly what is needed, what to do, what to get to. They're going to handle everything for you, but the part that you have to handle yourself, going to the doctors, for instance. I just think it makes it easier. It puts you in the know. You lost it. Looks like you lost at 54 for whatever reason. Don't know what that reason is. Don't know if they designed that reason to make it harder at 55. Sometimes that happens. We see that. But you kind of want to make it, I think, a whole new presentation and go at it maybe differently than you did. So probably an expert is probably in your best interest. And since they don't charge you to represent you, you know what I mean? There's no retainer. It's kind of a no-brainer. Maeve is back. Advice to others: get good attorney rep. Stephanie Choi, get great support and communication. Ease my panic. Still panicky though. I know. Even with got me to the finish line. Even with grid, I expected denial. Appeal 13 months. Applied to decision. Yeah, it was a pleasure and my honor and privilege, Maeve. And I appreciate the kind words. That's a recent one. Yeah, back pay showed well. Oh, okay. So Maeve is saying that she got her back pay well before the letter. It can be flip-floppy. Sometimes people get the letter and they're waiting forever for the money. It's like, where is it coming from? And it's been at the payment office, not the letter office. I don't know. The payment office might do the letter sometimes. I can't speak on that right this moment. Not remembering exactly who, if it's always a field office or always this payment center, or does it mix up? I don't know. I feel like it mixes up. Like it can vary. Yeah, you can get money first or you can get the letter first. There's no, from our perspective, there's no rhyme or reason. They probably have a rhyme or reason back there. But one thing is slowed up, you know, because you'd think you'd get the letter first. Boom, boom, banged out. No. Okay, Jasmine Tucker, good to see you. I submitted a dire letter regarding food and they expedited my case. They didn't require me to a CE exam. They didn't? Okay, to go to a CE exam. Now I'm in federal quality review. Hopefully they process it faster due to the shutdown. Yeah, right? I know that the payments are not in any way affected. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be faster, but I don't know that it's going to be any slower. That sounds like it could be good news. Nothing's ever carved in stone until you get it, but no CE and quality review. I don't know. Report back, would you? Next week or whatever, whenever you hear, just be like, I was the one that. Definitely explain it, because I got 5 million things that always go through my head with all these things at any given time, and I might not remember the details, but I'd be curious to know. Yeah. Oops. That is so guys, that on the screen is for the free SSD evaluations. It is the first screening. It's just to make sure that we're not wasting your time if we don't have an opening yet and it's waitlisted. So, you could submit it there. And then, sometimes if you want, I can always give you the number to somebody else that can take a look that probably has more openings in those particular areas. Okay. So don't be afraid to do that. SF says, yes, I've done that about 3 weeks ago, was told I was waitlisted. To us? Shoot. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know we do got to get sticklers about not letting people jump ahead of the other ones. It's just a fairness thing. And people, I think when they start being too nepotistic, it doesn't ring right. You know what I mean? But did you get a name for somebody else from us, SF? Because I could, if you didn't and you want, I can definitely get that to you. Okay. And then SF is asking, just was wondering how long to expect to wait. Oh, well, I'm sure whatever message you got about the wait list, it says do not wait and not get another representative, because cases, you know how long they take. And it could be a year. You know what I mean? You can't wait that long. If you know what your situation is like, and plus with deadlines and, expiration of DLIs and all that, particularly if you're not working part-time to keep your credits rolling, non-SGA, even non-TWP, but working just enough to get those credits, that would be not good. And I'm pretty sure that's in the letter she sends out all the time. So double check that. All right. Yeah. When we say waitlist, we mean waitlist. It's a big country. Hi, Valerie. I spoke with my payee yesterday and they support the idea of me. Oh, that's great. They are confident that Social Security will approve it. They said Social Security they said, awesome. All right. That's good. That's really good. I forget what other, if you're using your doctor's opinion as well, automated banking, all that good stuff that changes it from when people had to write checks. I don't know, 20 years ago, people had to, probably even less, people had to write checks for everything. That can be very hard for somebody who is not good managing the checkbook, or just like a little off on memory and keeping track of things. Doesn't have to be totally out there with online banking and automated payments now. With the direct deposit coming in, things get automatically paid. That's not a skill set that should be mandatory, really, to mandate a representative payee, right? Because now there's technology that assists everybody. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The exception could be if someone is a spendthrift. They can tolerate them, they can pay their bills on time, but they tend to go gambling or go to the store, or dare I say $500 a month at Starbucks. Those of you who know what I've been doing the last month know what I'm talking about. So that your bills aren't paid because that Starbucks is taking precedence, or that DoorDash. Just saying. Some people just can't handle their monies and don't realize that there are budgets. So that's where probably the rep pay is most important, I think. All right, so Virginia Gomez, again, is saying, can a case go faster at an appeals council viewing? I think you mean appeals council review. If the health condition is getting worse and have proof of I'm going to say it's unlikely unless suddenly you become dire because of that. And I pray and hope not, because that usually means something like terminal, and that wouldn't be good, right? Because think about it, most people's cases are getting worse. As we age, as conditions deteriorate, as medicine isn't all that it's cracked up to be, unfortunately. So I don't know that that's going to be a really strong way of getting it expedited. But if something in the dire case list that they have, I think we have a video on that someplace. If something did change, you're about to be evicted, all those different ones, by all means, I would try to get it up there. I don't know how quickly they listen to those, but I'm expecting that they have to. They're, a part of the SSA, so I would do it if something like that fits. Not just a conditioning getting worse, unfortunately. iExpress says, thank you for your time. My copay is $50 per session, 3 times per week. Hey, do you have 3 times per week? That's $150 a week. That's a lot. Yeah, I hear you. That'd be hard for anybody when somebody's still working, right? What do you think? You have private insurance, it sounds like. Are you low income, or do you have a spouse that is the reason why you don't have Medicaid? So what's going on there? Medicaid, there's no copays generally, I don't think. Sometimes you get more if you're poor. Hate to say it, but it's true. So I don't know what the situation is, Express, but I could definitely see why $50 per session too. Can you do 1 time a week for a while, for a month? What do you think? Will they work with you that way? Just and make it very clear that I do not have $150 a week and $50 per session. That's practically full pay. I mean, physical therapy, for God's sake. It's not an MRI or surgery. That's appalling. That's appalling. It's not even an MD. And I respect the physical therapists greatly. They are my favorite. They are one of my single most favorite set of records one can have in certain cases. You guys all hear me babble about it. But come on, people, not right. All right. Valerie says, I'm always welcome back if I should ever need their services again. Okay. Oh, sounds like you had an institutional representative payee. Is that right, Valerie? Versus like your friend or trusted family member. How do I prepare to meet with Social Security, even though I'm scared they will pull my case? No. They're not going to pull your case. I don't think that's going to be, so. The most I can say, because they don't have a script that we can respond to. Cool, calm, and collected. Don't look like you're mentally unable to control yourself. And if the deal is, and I forget if we talked about this last time, Valerie, but if the reason you had the rep payee was because at the time you are not as stable as you are now, or you're the same, not better, but now you have access to online banking that helps keep all that stuff paid up and doesn't require your diligent, time tracking and date tracking and, paying bills on a certain date. Doesn't require that you keep a calendar for that. If you explain, actually, I've been set up with online banking so that this will just be seamless, So, I don't recall, Valerie, if you have physical impairments or if it's just mental health or what it is, but the field office has a lot of clout on making that decision. And I think it is their decision. And it's found it kind of funny that these lay people, and they are lay people when it comes to medicine and whether you're competent to handle funds, but they make the end decision. So get more bees with honey. Don't go off the rails. You know what I mean? So cool, calm, collected, and maybe practice a little script in front of the mirror or to your friend or whatever that, you can handle your funds. I think they also charge you $40. Don't they charge I don't even know what it is now. It used to be like $40 a month that you are paying for a payee representative. If it's an institutional RP, representative payee. And that's like money out of your pocket. Oh, that adds up. And it's probably more than that now, I'm guessing. I think cool, in control at the moment is the way to go. Honey, not vinegar. And if it's the whole thing about reliability, paying things on time, to say, I've been set up with online banking and this is all being taken care of. So there's very simple for me to be my own representative payee now. You know what I mean? Fingers crossed. But you have the support of other people. That's really important. It's not just you saying it because you're subjective about yourself. So it's the other stuff. What is your... Valerie says, this is the question, right, Valerie? About that, my advice about the lion's den, meaning, yeah, well, you just heard it. That's the way I would take that. I wouldn't be saying, I am so much better than I used to be, obviously, because that's a sign of improvement. But just say, actually, I've been shown how to do online banking and it's all ready to go. So there's no real need for me to have an RP because that was really my only problem of magnitude for that kind of thing. Hope that helped a little bit. E56 says, oh, he's talking to I Express. I don't want to get in the middle of your conversation, guys. Oops, there too. I got to read better when they're on the side here. Huh? Jets. Oh, Jet. Is that like Jet's family? Okay. My case is in federal quality review. Oh, God, everybody, right? To this day is 7 days long. How long would it take? I forget what they say. Is that the one they say 7 to 10 days? Or is that the one they say 15 to 30? I think it's the shorter one. Fingers crossed for you, Jets. I mean, federal quality review tends to work out, but doesn't always. So hopefully the statistics are in your favor on that one. You fall on the right side of those stats. PNW Patriot 1776. I love that, Patriot. I'm a Patriot too, just so you know. Patriot says, I have a hearing in November for onset date. Do you mean for disability? They determine onset date during a disability hearing. Apparently not. I was approved at initial and recon and quality control and still approved. Should I be worried about losing it at ALJ? I'm confused here. What's going on? Did he continue on here? I had 2 Blue Book. I assume you're going to say you had 2 Blue Book listings. If you were approved, does that mean you were approved at a date you didn't like and you appealed it and that's why you're up at the ALJ? You're going to have to give me a little bit more information because why are you at an ALJ hearing unless you appealed your win? Which you might have done because you didn't agree with the onset. I'd have to know a little bit more. If that's the case, and let me just say this, and I don't know your case at all, whether you have a bigger risk of losing it at all at ALJ is depending on all your evidence that was after you won and now. So hopefully you were diligent and kept up with it. Also, believe it or not, I've never had something. We're very careful about when we're going to appeal an onset. It's a big, huge discussion with the client. And there's a lot of different various things to look at in terms of the case particulars to see if there's added risk versus less risk. An example of less risk would be if you did an age change age category, that age, the age brackets, guys, for the over 50s. If that changed for you since your initial, that means less risk of an overturn. He'd really have to find completely things contrary to the SSA to jump you out of that and say, no, but he can actually do medium level work, So I don't know what your parameters are, so I can't say, but do you follow what I'm saying? And even when not, I think judges are very careful not to whimsically overturn an award given by the SSA. They will overturn denials. That's why we love them, but not so much. I don't think it's just my common sense gut reaction. That would be something that they would be very hesitant to do. Now, I have heard from colleagues, not in a while, because it doesn't really come up in conversation now, but that have had experiences where something appealed ended up being a complete flip. That's got to be devastating. And that's why it's so important that if you have an attorney, that this was all discussed and, your appeal was well thought out in terms of, the level of risk or non-risk you have. Yeah. And if someone were to decide, oh my God, I wish I didn't appeal, now I'm scared, you can withdraw the request for appeal before the decision's made. You probably don't need to do that, Patriot. You probably have an excellent case and a very little risk, but just throwing that out there for anybody else who did it and is like, oops, I think now I shouldn't have. Oh, we got John Gongon. Look at that. Hi, stranger. The bird is up the chat. Where's Token? It's Tasha, and I could see her out the window of my I have like French doors over here. And she was being a stubborn girl. She was like, I put in my hand, I go up, up, and she climbs up. When she doesn't want to come with you, she will put her head down and take your finger with her mouth. Not her. If you keep insisting, she'll take her own foot and put it in her mouth. Like, I'm going to bite myself if you don't leave me alone. It's really funny. This is how like gentle she is, you know, like she doesn't hurt you. But she did this the other day. So, like, it was the second time I had to take a shower. She was out and about, meaning out and about on her perch on top of her condominium. And I don't like to leave her out there unattended. Like, I have to be in here where I can see her or out there. Sorry guys, this is a tangent, but I brought her in. I took my shower. She was on the shower curtain rod. And the first time I did it, I'm like, let's just see if she freaks out, you know? And she liked it. She stayed. She had no problems with the water coming down or the scary thing she saw in the shower. But the second time I did it, she did not want to leave the bathroom. She's high up. She was loving it. Maybe because it's warm in there. I don't know. So I had her in there all day to close the door in case because the dogs get really curious and they like to go in there. So I'm like, all right, girl, close the door. And she was in there for most of the day. Every time I'd go in and be like, you ready to come out now? And she'd say no. And then I think by the time I did get her out, I'm like, do you want a cracker? And she came down because I'm not feeding her in there. It's pretty funny. Anyway, I digress. The bird talk. Thanks, John. John gone. Good. Express says he doesn't have, or she, I don't know which one. I don't have Medicaid, but I'm going to call now and ask, yes. What do you have? Can I ask? What do you have that you have insurance that has a copay? I mean, we who buy insurance, we have copays, obviously, or else it would be so much more expensive. But so you have it through, if you have a working spouse, it might be tough because then you might not be low enough income for the Medicaid. But then the spouse kind of has to be, you know, just for, it's like an investment in your case. I know that's scary because there's no guarantee you win your case, but I'm worried. I just worry about that for you. Okay, Valerie had an organizational, aka institutional representative payee. Okay, so I'm glad they're on your side about that. Like, you get concerns about, well, they make their money off of their people, so you know the people that they are RPs for. So maybe they'll be like, no, we don't think you're competent. And I don't even know how they would know. They don't hang out with you, right? I would tend to think your PCP would be best, and your psych and close family, trusted family. But that's okay. Express says, I wish I had Medicaid. My insurance won't provide transportation. I'm not allowed to drive due to syncope and vertigo. Yeah. How you getting there? Is your family taking you? I mean, it sounds like you have family, which is a blessing. Take it from me with this whole last month. But obviously I've been seeing it for 20 years with all the wonderful people out here, but it's so good. I mean, tangent again, the destruction of the family unit has been so destructive in so many ways, and this is one of them. When someone's completely single and familyless without a supportive family, they are out in the cold, and now you're depending on people that don't know or typically care, you know, government agencies or their NGOs. You know, I've had it literally up to here, like, what are the taxpayers paying for these NGOs that they're not going to step up in the particular situation that I am trying to assist in, or at least up until today? You know, I've explained everything 10 ways to Sunday. The assessments have all been, oh yeah, that person really shouldn't be out on their own. You know, I'm just like, what is the point? What is the point of you getting paid squat from the taxpayers if you're not going to do a better job? That's just me, and I'm a little angry about it today. We'll see. But I did sound the alarm again to probably 4 different enterprises today that I've been in contact with already, and just letting them know that I have to step out. So your turn. All right. Valerie says, my doctor says I'm not better, but she says with all this auto bill pay and online banking, it'll be better. It was based on mental, but I did see, perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. So I wouldn't go in there saying I'm a little better. I wouldn't even say that. I would say the advent of technology now takes care of the payment of the bills. So online banking, and I'm capable of having that in my life because it means that I'm not required to actually do any of the things that I wouldn't be able to do. Maybe something like that. Oh, 47. So, okay. Valerie's saying that a representative payee that's institutional gets paid $47 a month. Okay. So I did expect it to go up a bit. Yeah. So what did it go up? It went up about 20%. That sounds about right with inflation. Oh, some versions of inflation. By the way, guys, representative payees, if their family or friends do not get paid, which is understandable, really. Oh, Valerie's saying when we get a raise, it goes up. So Valerie's saying, thank you, Valerie. I didn't know that. When COLAs happen, Valerie, that's what you're saying, when there's a COLA and she gets a higher benefit rate, her representative P gets a little nudge up in the monthly. Interesting. Earth says, or Earthal, I wish I knew which one it was. Earthal's over 60, did construction over 30 years and had 3 cervical fusions. Oh my goodness. Rods and plates, severe pain, nerve impingement. What are my chances for SSDI? Well, I can say you're in a best age range at 60. If that construction is all you've done in the last 30, so because your past relevant work will be the last 5, if it's either nothing or it's that physical construction stuff that may be skilled, maybe semi-skilled, maybe unskilled. I wouldn't know based on this, but those physical jobs are far more easy to prove that you can't do than a sit-down brainiac job for the high-skilled sedentary workers, the office people that did high-skilled stuff, the lawyers, the accountants, the account managers. Yeah, they have a tough time. Legal secretaries, regular secretaries, So those things are all positive. Can I say what your chances are? Of course I can't. Not unless I saw your case and represented you. And then I would say you have an extremely good chance. I forget what you said you are in the process, Earthel. Let me see if I can scroll up without getting lost in these weeds and my eyes going bonkers. Let's see. I was just curious about, it's going to be too far up. It'll take me forever. I apologize. I just don't want to hold people up. Have you spoken to your attorney about it? If you don't have an attorney, you should probably consider getting one. If you want to have the best chance of having the strongest case, you can. That's my opinion. Does it mean you can't win without? Absolutely not. People do it all the time. All right. Hayum says, national desk isn't consistent. No kidding. Neither is the field offices. You have to speak to different people. Yeah, it's almost like you got to make multiple conversations, ask the same question, hope you get a different person, and then see what the different results are. At least know what your possibilities are because you have A, B, C, D answer, right? Yesterday, he says, I called and the rep said both SSI and SSDI denied. That is probably correct. Maybe not. I called just now and this rep said SSI is denied, but SSDI is pending. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I would almost tend to think the one that said that they're both denied is probably most likely right because he might be able to see that SSDI was denied the disability part, but you're back at the field office where they pretend to do that non-medical review that is nonsensical and makes no sense because there's no non-medical to review if you have not passed medical. The whole thing, we've talked about this forever for almost 2 years. Ridiculous messaging that they have. I can't even believe they're doing it. I think it's a faux. Valerie says, shall I take a doctor's letter? I see her again on the 4th and I meet with the field office on the 12th. Ooh, so it's possible I won't be a part of the live stream that day. Oh, well, I'll miss you, but this is more important for sure. Okay, I wonder if your doctor would say something if she believes, and it sounds like she does from what you said, Valerie, if she will say, in whatever way she says things, I'm confident that Valerie, because of the advent of online banking, which assists people of all, cognitive levels, however she wants to say, whatever she wants to say. But I believe that with the online banking available to Valerie and the setup assistance that she has to get that going, she does not need a representative payee, and her bills will be well paid, properly paid by her online banking setup and her ability to check in on it sometimes, right? So in a way, some way, shape, or form, she just has to say, given the online banking technology that everyone's using, whether we use it when we don't even need it. We just like it because it saves us time and less minutia we have to focus on so we can do more work here. I think that would be great. That would be great. Maybe short and sweet without the babble that I'm adding here, but just talking about the online banking and you'll be fine with it. Meaning she could say you'll be fine with it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You got that on the 4th. Ooh, Patriot. I asked you a question, didn't I, Patriot? Let's see. I'm going to look up. So I got it right. You appealed it. Okay. Yeah. I stand by what I said and I see it's worth 80 grand. I get the reason for the appeal. I had a case like that. We did appeal and it stayed the same. The judge, he had to be 50. Like it was where they were sticking stubbornly to the fact that they said he had an RFC of light, which was ridiculous because he can't be on his feet all day like that. And because he had shoulder problems, he cannot be lifting 20 pounds all throughout the day. At least not occasionally, which is a third of the day. I'm sorry, that's a lot of lifting to me. Not as much as 2/3 of the day, but a third of the day is like 2-3 hours of lifting 20 pounds. Can you imagine? He had similar back benefits. And that's why he was like, no, I definitely want to. I've not been able, I totally got it. And ironically, in construction as well. And I was really, because factually I know they were wrong, but that's what the judge did. He said, oh, yeah, he wins. I agree with them. At 55, he turned 55. When he turned 55, That's what he gets as of. And of course, when they awarded him that, he had just turned 55. He didn't even have benefits right away. He had to wait like 4 months for the 5-month waiting period to be over. Obviously, it was one of those wins where he got his benefits where we didn't get paid. And I'm fine with that. I was pretty devastated for him for not getting back benefits because he had a lot of bills, built up. So it was a travesty to us, but it is what it is. Patriot says, oops, oh, wait a minute. Sorry. He says here, my records reflect disabilities of course, everyone who has an alleged onset says that. Always, or else it wouldn't have been the alleged onset date. I don't know why they changed my date because they didn't find it was strong enough at the time you said it was. Even if you're fully disabled, if you haven't been doing that diligent, going to the doctor and not working SGA, and have the diagnostics and everything, that AOD might fail because they have to have the strong enough proof, whatever date the strong enough proof comes into play. And again, it depends if you did an age change. Like on that date, you were 53, and if they found you were extremely impaired and limited to sedentary, you lose. They might have pushed your date to your birth date, 55th. And again, I don't know what you said about your age. Do you see what I'm saying? So that could be in play too. You have to look at the details. Devil's in the details, just to see if I always try to find out, why did they pick that date? And this doesn't happen often, by the way, but why did they pick that date? And if there is a really strong reason, and I know that the evidence before that was kind of mediocre, I'll usually say I wouldn't bother appealing it. I think the chance of you winning based on the evidence you didn't have is slim. And what about that still slim chance that you get it returned and all the stress of waiting around? Now, it's true that you continue to collect your whatever they did award you, so you don't have to stop collecting to appeal, which is nice. So they don't have that over your head. But the rest of the consideration sometimes. Patrick goes on to explain that he filed in December 2023, and got approved February of 2025. Onset date. Okay, I appealed onset, appealed onset, approved in quality control. It is now at ALJ because you appealed the onset. Yeah, that's what I kind of extracted from what you were saying before, right? Because that seemed like the only way this could have happened. Okay, yep. So yeah, fingers crossed for you. You never know. If there was missing evidence, did you go through your evidence, Patriot, or did your attorney missing evidence from initial that had they seen that they might have gone with your onset date? Was there something that they didn't get that you neglected to get to them when they couldn't get it? Things to look at. There's a bunch of little things you need to look at to see how you can improve your chances of getting the judge to go your way, or in some way, shape, or form. Okay, Valerie's saying that psychologist supports this. That's good. That's her getting rid of her representative payee and healing herself. Jennifer Cologne. Am I saying that right? I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you. Oh, she says, hi, I love your show. Well, thanks. Come on, everybody. Like, share, and subscribe, as they say. They tell me I should be saying that a lot more, but I'm not really comfortable doing it. Okay. She says, I have cervical myopathy, stenosis, failed right side fusion, lots of mental health with inpatient hospitalizations. What are my chances? How old are you, Jennifer? It will make a difference. It's not controlling, but it does affect your chances. Express says he or she has Aetna insurance. So you're paying for you have savings or whatever, or someone working in your household, Express, that pays for the, as you can see, it's really crappy insurance you have from Aetna in the marketplace. Yeah. We went through that whole debacle. Now we have our insurance. I paid out of pocket like you're doing for 4 years, maybe. Don't even get me into that debacle. What I used to pay out of pocket when my husband had jobs, but they didn't have health benefits. That was after he left a job with a company that did, which we had our 2 babies while he was working there. So that was good. C-sections to boot. But then he left that job to go back to school. So that's when there was no Obamacare at that time. We bought private insurance. Me as a self-employed person bought it for the family. And it was doable. Policies were pretty good back then. There was no market manipulations like obviously we have now since Obamacare. And then Obamacare came in. And now suddenly we were told the policy you have, the premiums went up, say, from $500 to, I don't know if it was $2,000 or $2,500. I'm like, how? How can they go up? Nothing's changed. That is what changed with that new law, that all these private ones are going to be jacked up. So then the thing was, we'll save you. We'll get you the same policy and you will pay the same $500 and we'll subsidize you and give you welfare of the other, $1,500 or $2,000, whatever it was. And I'm like, I'm getting the same, I'm paying the same for the same exact policy. And now you're suddenly saying I need your help to pay for it because somehow the price went up. It was a real slap in the face. So we had to suck up and do that for a number of years. And then fortunately, my husband got a job with an employer that does have group policy, and you just pay your contribution through your paycheck, which is far less expensive than buying your own or even paying that particular policy on your own. The employer pays most of the premium. The employees pay X amount from their paychecks. So that was so great. As you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of ACA because it definitely screwed the majority of the people, but that's neither here nor there. Jennifer says, part 2, I've also had 7 surgeries in the 3 years that I've been, oh my goodness. Oh, so you have a hearing coming up to boot. I assume you have an attorney. What do they say? What's the prognosis? What's going on? Maeve says, I had an Alexandrine who flew. Oh, is that a bird? God, sorry, I'm so ignorant on that. Who flew into the bathroom when I started to shower and then jumped down and onto my shoulder to sorry. Join the bathing, even with this scary thing. Pretty funny, right? Seeing a bird shower is glorious. I bet it is. If she wanted to hang out, I don't know if I'd want her on my shoulder. See, I like my showers hot, and I would be afraid of burning her. But I always kind of wondered if I had like a lukewarm, I won't step into it lukewarm. I need it hot. But would she want to go take a big bird bath? That'd be kind of fun, huh? For her, maybe. She didn't really seem like it because she didn't like look as she was trying to jump down. And she knows how to flop to the floor if she wants to, which is scary. I'm always afraid she's going to bust open. But that's funny that they seem to like that raining water, right? They're probably remembering their tropical racial memories of when their ancestors were living in what would that be? The rainforest? I don't know. I'm being funny here, guys. I know I'm just going on digressions, but it lightens up the mood, you know? Aetna is what I have that limits to 60 visits per year. 60 is not too bad, right? What is that? 5 a month? 5 times 12. Am I right? I mean, usually PT is scrunched. So what if you did like, I don't know, with your copays, this is not possible if you don't have sufficient financial help from family, but and don't have savings and retirement funds you could draw from or whatever. Sometimes people will do like a 2-month bout. So they'll do 18 like twice a week for 2 months or something. I think that would be like 16. And then they still have some they can use. So maybe I don't know, maybe the different, that kind of drags it out. So you get that evidence, like say in March, April, then you have it again in September, October. Then maybe you do it again, you know, depending on what the body needs and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's more than one body part. Sometimes I have people that'll be like, they're giving it to her on her shoulders, neck. And then a different course of PT will be the back. I have seen them do that simultaneously too, like running at the same time. But I've also seen it where it's the course for the neck, and then a few months later it's the course for the lumbar or whatever. Yeah, I wish I knew. Jennifer's 55. I think it sounds like you have a good case, Jennifer. All that stuff going on with you, I really do. Fingers crossed. I mean, there's never any 100% guarantees in this world here we have. But yeah, I assume you have an attorney. If you don't, you know how to reach us, but I'm guessing you do, and I think you're probably in really good hands. Valerie says, to show that I'm not better, I usually don't share this. Well, you are sharing it on YouTube right now, but I have a state-paid caregiver mom, and I do both. I both do. What? I have a state-paid caregiver mom, and I both do. That's cool. They handle things that we can't do in our own home. I didn't have this when I was approved. Well, I'm glad you have that. You know, my friend, my old friend, actually, it's a little morphed into something different after not being in touch for a few years when this occurred, right? I mean, you just try to help your fellow person and someone that used to be close friends with. I wish they had that for her, but I'm telling you, I'm like screaming at all the agencies, you know, it's just, and it's funny because once I tell them what I do and who I am, I do get a better reaction, but it shouldn't have to be that way. It should be because that's not relevant to what her situation is. And I'm explaining it the same as if I didn't say who I am, but I have started to say who I am. And one thing I also do, guys, when I give them a whole rundown and I speak very firmly with them, like, well, this is what you need to know. At the end, I tend to say, listen, I don't mean to be really quick and sharp tongued with you. I go, but time is limited. I know I had a short period of time to get you up to speed. And I don't mean to, you know, come off hard towards you. It's just that this is a very frustrating situation and her life is at stake and things are very dire and she will be under a bridge shortly if the government who's being paid to help her doesn't step up. And that's what I do. And we'll see how it works. But I'm out. Okay. Mephisto. Have you noticed if your clients applying for SSD over the last few years are much more informed from the start than they used to be? All the YouTube videos. I don't know. I'd like to think so, right? Some of my clients I don't get from, a lot of them do come from watching YouTube, but some are from colleagues in Jersey that have a workers' comp personal injury firm. Many, many come from their friends or family of my former clients around the country. So it's kind of like a little, I guess I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, just the way it all worked out, which is nice. But it is definitely true that the ones that came to me through learning of me through YouTube, they do have a bit more greater understanding. And they also, one thing that I think is important, and I think I might have to put this out there for anyone who doesn't, they seem to have more, they know how I run things a little bit better. Even though these video shares, the pre-recorded stuff don't talk to that. I think when they watch so many that, I'm usually throwing something anecdotal out there. Like this is, by the way, this is how we do it if we're, and so they kind of know a little bit more of what to expect. Like they know they're not going to be writing solo, trying to figure out the kind of information that the SSA wants in their function report. They know they're not going to have to do that, that they're going to be working with somebody who helps them provide responsive, accurate questions. Same with work history report. I am a firm believer that you don't leave your client out there drafting his own stuff when he doesn't even understand the questions fully. And then people I don't represent, of course, have the function report playlist, which hopefully helps them question by question, so they don't have to listen to a 2-hour soliloquy when they only need some information on question 5. There is a bunch of question 5 videos that they can hone in on. Anyway, I'd like to think so, Mephisto. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, when I first started doing this, it was very limited videos for my actual clients that existed to, I think it started with the function report stuff, to help them know what's important about the function report, what things are not asked for, so don't say it, that kind of thing. So it was, maybe that was 4 years ago, I'm thinking, I don't know, something like that. And they weren't even on YouTube. And then when people had trouble, they didn't have like storage space to download a video of that I would give them the link to through our portal that we use. And I was like, how do I help those people? It could be phone storage space, people that don't have robust computer systems. So I put it elsewhere. I put it on Rumble. Then YouTube seemed more simple and streamlined. So then I moved it more to, I still sometimes throw one up on Rumble, but my go-to was YouTube. I guess I do. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I never really thought about it. I guess I do think they kind of come to me with a little bit more knowledge, unless they've only seen one video, which that could be too. And that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter because we do it the same. It's kind of like McDonald's. You have your process. If you don't screw around, it's going to get the job done, And of course, it has to be tweaked as SSA tweaks things. So you got to always make sure you meld and that everything works good. But hope that kind of answers the questions in a roundabout kind of way. Yes, I think you're in good hands, Jennifer. I really do. I feel very positive about it from what you said here. I think you're good. No guarantees, but I can't think of a stronger case on the basics. I don't know what your doctor's records say and if they're competent recorders or not, but it sounds very good. So fingers crossed for you, my dear. Okay, you deserve it. You've been through a lot. Chits fam, they said 7 to 10 days federal quality review. Thank you. I'm so positive. I have stroke in March. I go 3 times a week to therapy. Are you positive you had a stroke or positive about something else? But I'm sorry about the stroke. That's scary. I think my husband was going to be heading that way to do a totally clogged carotid artery on his right side. He just had surgery a number of weeks ago to get that all taken out. And he didn't have a stroke, Jets fam, which everyone seemed shocked. Like, you're here because he had Bell's palsy? And now this thing is coming out of his neck? The Bell's palsy we just had our 1-year anniversary of that. Yeah, the shit's been hitting the fan the last few years, is what caused the ER 2 hours away where we stay out by Harrisburg to reveal the clog. And that's how we learned about it. And, the clog is not the problem because the other side will feed the blood to the brain is what I've been told. But the problem with the clog is that it chips off plaque and that goes to the brain and causes the stroke. And even in the hospital with this surgery, he was like a specimen to be checked out by everybody. Like, is it true that you only came here? You didn't have a stroke before you came here? Like, no, we didn't have. Like, oh my God, I realized how much we maybe dodged a bullet. And I'm grateful for the Bell's palsy, believe it or not, even though it causes him significant pain quite intermittently to this day. It's crazy. It's really weird, but it was a good fortunate thing, if you can ever say that. How do you decide when to submit? This is Mephisto. How do you decide when to submit a client's SSD application Is it as soon as possible or is there a strategy? There's definitely a strategy. You must have watched some videos, huh? Yeah. Sometimes it's ASAP. It depends where they are at in the whole process of various things, whether it's working, not working, their medical records, what kind of impairment they have. Is it the kind that is clear cut versus progressive? Were they able to work with it all this time when it was like this as it is now, so that they should have more time after they stop working to go to the doctors more, and it'll build that evidence to help show, yeah, it was different before I stopped working. It was getting bad, but now it's really bad because you were able to work when it was kind of bad. So it wasn't bad enough. So, seeing if there's an evidence change in that, that's how it's a whole review. I mean, it's a multi aspect discussion of what would be better for somebody for their case. It's particularly important, I think, if they only have one bite of the apple left. You got to make it your best shot. You don't want to be rushing and trigger happy on an application when it's going to mean you're going to defeat and destroy any chance of winning on initial. And remember, if you lose on initial, there is a chance you win on recon, but the chances are much less. So you may as well just say, I'm going to just have to sit here with my thumb up my butt so I can go to hearing. But never sit there with your thumb up your butt, because you need to be building that evidence for the judge. Because if he sees the same thing that the under levels saw, it's probably going to be another denial. You're going to be in that percentage that's denied because you didn't do all the things you could do. And I don't mean you, of course. I mean generally. Valerie says, thank you for everything. You have been most helpful. I'll let you know what happens. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. Patriots, thank you. Jennifer said, you said and then she goes on to say, my attorney hasn't talked to me since he took my case. But when he took it, he said I had excellent chance. Oh, okay. It's Jonathan. He's awesome. He has good people that will be working it even if you don't see it going on. And I know he doesn't necessarily do the same interaction I do, but he has, like all attorneys, the biggest incentive. And he's right. I mean, your case sounds very good. So I think you're in good hands. All right. And I'm so glad it's coming up in December for you. That means 2026 will be at least from this part of your life, a much better year, right? Jennifer, you got it. Okay, I got to back up to Express here because I popped over to get Jennifer's part 2. Oops, Jennifer's in part 3. Okay, Steve says, I had brain surgery 4 months ago and needed occupational and physical therapy, and my plan now only allows 35. I'm sorry, it's not Steve, it's Express. All right, I'm having a brain fart. All right, so you guys are having a private discussion. Okay. Which I think is great. It's great for you guys to, seriously, it's a commonality that can kind of make some friendships. Jennifer is in physical therapy and IT. What is IT? What is IT? I keep thinking of technology, but I know that's not what it is. Twice a week for neck, back, arm, and legs. Did you mean OT? La Lulu. Have you been here the whole time, lady? I view real life tidbits like bird talk or Tasha tales as interesting inserts, not distractions. That's sweet. Like additional evidence you're a caring human and not a legal robot, especially for new viewers. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. I'm sorry she's not here today, but she was being really stubborn. So I'm going to start to be like, well, the treats come in here, not when you're stubbornly sitting on your high-end perch over your condo looking down on all of us. Funny thing though, if she hears us laughing, because she sits in the kitchen on this thing sometimes. Remember my husband made, can you guys see this perch? I got to get it painted. If we start laughing over something, let's say we're having happy hour, when he's home on Fridays, and you'll hear her go, like she's imitating her laugh. And also we have other birds, and I tend to be the one that puts down there. She doesn't get covered for the night because her prior owner said she doesn't like it. So she seems fine with that. So that's good. The other littler birds get covered. And I always say, night, 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 night. I say that to people too. It's just the way I talk. I'm just, you have your little funny ways to say it. I go night night, and as I turn around and I go up the stairs, I hear her go night night. I'm like, she learned a phrase from me, or this is pretty funny. Night night. Funny. She is funny, Lulu. I just love her. Okay, Jennifer says also have lots of medical with CR. Oh my God, you have CRPS also and migraines. Yeah, I think I'm so sorry you have all that stuff going on. I have a pretty good knowledge on how painful that is, and it just sometimes it's very unexpected. I think you're good to go. And Jonathan is spot on. Okay. Gosh, Jennifer, I'm thinking about you though. So from afar, even from this side over, you got our prayers there. Not just for the win, which I think you're definitely going to have the slam dunk, for your future health and getting this better, better healing. Dimple says, I've learned so much from watching your videos. Oh, thank you for all your. Well, thank you. That's all I need to hear to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Jennifer says, thank you for your help. Oh, you bet. OT. Okay. The IT was OT, occupational therapy. All right. Yeah, I was a little slow on that. I should have figured out that that was a typo. Yep. CRPS, very familiar. Very familiar. I've had plenty of CRPS cases, and I'll tell you, Jennifer, they didn't have necessarily as many additional comorbidity type of impairments that you do. So that's why I feel, and I went on my CRPS cases, so I really think you're in good hands. But I still care about your health too, and like, I wish it didn't have to be. You have a bird too. Jennifer has a green wing macaw named Max, who's awesome, talks like crazy. Oh my gosh. Now, is that like huge, right? You couldn't just have him on your shoulder, could you? Just curious. Because we may be adopting for the same parent as Tasha. She's down to one bird, and in time, I think she might be down to 0 birds. And it is she's an Amazon. Oh my God. African gray, I think is what my daughter told me. So I think that's about the same size as her. Like not the super huge, definitely not the teenies, but like, maybe more like this. So I don't know. I'll have to get up to my exotic bird. When I grew up, we raised wild birds, crows, and we had a mockingbird once, and we had many blackbirds and robins, and very, very cool. I love birds. Christina, hello from California. She's our West Coast supporter here. Gotta love it. And a supporter, Jonathan, too. Jennifer says that her macaw is huge, not on my shoulder, walks all over the house. So funny. If I didn't have cats and dogs around here, we're like a zoo. I can't stand it. I know that sounds weird because I've always been an animal person, but it's a little over the top. But I got an 18-year-old who's an animal person. This bird would be walking around too. But I don't, when she's flown flop to the ground, the dogs get excited, but they don't hurt her. But I'm always around. She's never out and about on her perch or on our portable perch when we're hanging out. She gets a lot of attention, obviously, but never left out without someone right there. Because what if, and our dogs, our dogs can be competitive with each other. So one of them is an miniature Australian Shepherd. She's going to want to get in between the other ones. She might even try to pick up the bird to take it away to protect it from what she perceives as, a cat who, cats with their birds. Although I think these cats might be afraid of a bird this size, but maybe not. Maybe not. They have a little feralness in them. All of them. Well, 2 of them anyway. So I can't do that. When we move, which we will, and the kids will be doing their own thing because they're almost adults. She'll be coming with us. Maybe some other birds, not sure. Definitely the tortoise, Fiona. If you guys haven't met Fiona, she's walking around my office someplace. They'll be coming with us. And any dogs that are still alive might have to, but it'll be a different kind of a place. So it'll be different. Huge. I bet he's huge. And he walks all over the place. He's got to be so adorable. Don't they have the best personalities, Jennifer? They really do. But yeah, the bird could be left out, but for all those animals that well-meaning but idiotic, the dogs. And I do fear that, one's like, let me sniff you. And then the other one goes, hey, get away from her. Like protective and overreactionary and stuff like that. They get very excitable. So I wouldn't trust it. I don't trust it. Anyhow, I think we're at the end of our questions, guys, so we can pop on out of here. Does anybody have anything quick they need to pop in? Any late arrivers, which, come on now, late arriving. Anybody? Yeah, we're talking about the birds still because we got no questions. Otherwise, I'd be doing questions, guys. Jennifer says, best personality. He's really so much fun. Lays down on me like a baby. I bet he does. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Lulu says, I'm always here live, listening and learning, and to press the like button, even if not chatting. I appreciate that. I know, so I don't really see who's in here. There's no like list or anything. I guess can I see it? No, it just says the number at any given moment, but I appreciate that. So I just didn't know you were here. So it was nice to see you. See your smiling face. Jennifer says, any tips for the hearing? Oops. Well, Jonathan's going to tell you, or I guess, or maybe one of his staff, be yourself. Don't be shy about telling exactly how it is. I do always say, go over your function report. Those are a lot of the questions that a judge might ask. In some way, shape, or form, he might cherry pick depending on what kind of evidence he's seeing in the file. He's not going to pick the irrelevant ones. So I would review those and see what your current see if your answer today is different from when you submitted that function report. Is it worse? Is it better? If it's better, because he asks those questions and you're going to say something better than what you had before, you might have a qualification to that. That would be relevant and more favorable to also explain what that improvement or whatever. Also, if your work history is relevant, if you've had work in the last 5 years, I want to make sure that you have don't go skimpy on any of the arduous physical natures of that job. Physical. I do see people a lot of time because they mostly had a sit-down job. They say they didn't do any lifting, and when you dig into it, well, not a lot. Every week I had to empty the garbage bins. How much do they weigh? Probably like 30 pounds. Now you have a 30-pound weight limit. That means your job was medium level. It wasn't light and it wasn't sedentary, and that helps you prove you can't do it anymore. Knowing what those things are, and that saying you didn't lift anything when you did once a week is important to show that you couldn't do that job as performed. And it's just one of the tiers you have to prove. You know, I would just make sure you got that all kind of ironclad. Okay. Christina says, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the chat. It really helps Attorney Stephanie. It does. It definitely goes towards, all of this goes towards those, you know, we're talking about those waitlisted things. Some of those waitlisted things, but also the 1%ers, which are ones that just wouldn't be taken by anybody. And you go from 1% to probably something so much higher if you have really diligent workup with somebody who knows what issues you have to prove. And those are the ones that you can't really afford to take a lot of. Most attorneys won't take them at all because you have to put in probably 5-10 times more hours, and which are going to be obviously unpaid. Some of them are actually unpayable cases, but you want to win for the person so they get their benefits even though you can't get paid. Those are the ones that we can afford to do a little bit more in because of this. So this isn't big generating, but it's enough. It's enough. So it's really helpful. Express. Oh, that's very kind. Maeve is telling me that there are 2 sizes of African gray, the Timneh, am I saying that right? And the Congo. Congo is larger. I have zero idea which one it is. I'm thinking the smaller, maybe. That'd be interesting, huh? Jennifer says, thank you very much. My answers are very different, much worse. Then that's you. It's good that you're going to the hearing because you're going to be able to testify, and it's going to be showing that it's worse from before. So whatever they denied you on before, when they had those, because that was the under levels that had those, and of course the judge will have it too. Now you could show that it's gotten worse. Jennifer says she worked at her last job 17 years. Were any of those 17 years in the last 5? If your DLI, Jennifer, if your DLI, date last insured, don't be growling, shushy. If your date last insured is in the future, then your 5-year look back period starts at the day of your hearing. When your judge gets it, that's the next adjudication date. It's going to be around that time, or 5-year look. Technically, it's probably the date of his decision when that comes out. But if you have a remote DLI because you've already expired out your SSD insured status, then whatever date that DLI is, the look back goes back from that. And that's in terms of, can she do her past relevant work? All right. That's the relevance of the job thing. Obviously, at most you had only one, and it was if it was in the last 5 years. If it wasn't in the last, in terms of looking back, deciding whether you could do your past relevant work, that has to be within the last 5 years. Are we getting political? I don't know if you are. I know we're not here, and you're free to, but just don't do it here. Let's do it elsewhere. Okay. Let's see. Jennifer says, last worked. All right. So you are probably still insured because those 17 years are probably all straight in a row. Not like only 2, and then there was a 10-year gap. So it sounds like, I don't know what stayed on. It's October 19th, 2022. If you earned all of your 22 credits, I mean, you were a steady worker before then, all of 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. DLI is probably in the future in 2027. Am I right? Yeah. So your look back will only be the last 5 years from the date of your hearing. That will still include that job, though, obviously, because it was 2022, and your look back from 2025 is going to go back to 2020. So you have to address that job, and you have to show that you couldn't do that job now, and that you can't transfer those skills to a job that would be what they say that you could do sedentary, which is kind of hard to do sedentary when you have a lot of bad back problems. Okay. Tina says, Attorney Stephanie, do you have anywhere your viewers can leave you a 5-star review? I don't really do that. I know on Avo, there's a profile on there. Do you guys know Avo, AVVO? But feel free to start them anywhere you want. Honestly, that is not something I've jumped on, not because it's probably not helpful, blah, 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 Christina, but I just don't focus on it so much. I just focus on what I'm doing. But Avo is one that does exist for what that's worth. I know I should probably be a little bit different and more official with those kind of marketing things, but it's just kind of not my thing. Not that I won't take it if it's there. Yeah, she says, if your viewers feel that you have helped them, of course, and leave a comment. I hear what you're saying. I just had a great response from someone I did a consult for the other day. I think I was just going to post it in the comments because it was like, this is exactly, it was a 1-hour consult, but I also decided to draft the $795 from me for them, explaining a legal reality of the SSA rules that they seem to be ignoring. So it's kind of a different kind of tactic, but I did it, and it's an under oath statement. It's on the SSA 795 form so that he could use it when he met with them. And I reviewed his stuff that he wanted to submit separately. So, and he wrote a really good, it wasn't a review. It was a response that went to my assistant, and it's like, this is exactly what and it came in right in time because person's like in a different time zone. I think actually the visit was in your time zone, Christina, although the person is actually, and this is the whole issue, living in Switzerland. So very crazy situation, but you kind of had to get into some nitpicky rules that we don't necessarily practice with regard to them because the guy's retired. It was a retirement payment issue, but it was a pleasure doing it, and hopefully it will work perfectly the way it should. And he left a really nice, kind of like a thank you, like, oh, this is perfect. Da, da, da. I'm like, that's what I want to see. Consults are they're not what I'm here for, but I'd still do them, of course. I'm here for my clients, client work, representation, proving the medical disability of disabled people. Jets Fam says, I have learned so much because of you. Oh, that's super sweet. I find you in YouTube videos when I go to CE appointment. Okay. I prepare myself, watch your videos. The doctor was great. He asked for all hospital records. I bring the record. Ooh, very good. He asked for all hospital records. I've never even heard them do that because hospital records are like, right? Black 305 is talking about Trump have the opportunity to get rid of the grid rules. Yeah, no, and he never said he would. Some people are getting played. Watch your media sources. Do your research on their motivations, and you might find. Could he do that? Could his administration with the SSA, do they have the power to try to, the regulatory part? They can't change the fact that Congress says you have to consider age, but I think the grids are a regulation that was put into place many years ago. Now I want to say 2005-ish, so 2003, 2005, that administration did try to change the age. Not this one. This one doesn't even have a proposal on the table. So that's pretty faux. One thing you could do when you're getting confused by the clickbait and stuff, and you're reading articles that you think are credible, but they're really not. Sometimes these reporters or these bloggers are completely paid whores, if you want to look at it that way. You could tell from the language they use. I know a group I'm involved with, it's all about getting to what's actually evidence and what's false. And it's not just in Social Security, it's in like everything. And it's a network I'm part of because I really don't like the spread of disinformation and the fear it puts on my people from my perspective in Social Security. But when they say this could happen, they could be doing this, they may, if that happens, and this may happen. And if they say a former person in the administration, or if they say an anonymous this, you're looking at zero credibility. Those are like the three biggest tips I can give you about it. When you don't know anything else, look at that. Now, we do things deeper. We actually go to the source. We go to the publisher. We find out about their biases. We find out who's funding them, who they donate to. And you find out so much stuff about motivations, the profitable nature of spinning stories. So again, does an administration have the power to change regulations, like in the Code of Federal Regulations, which the grid sits in? Yes, they have the power. But when it comes to changing the regulations, know this: someone proposes it officially, and there's notice all over the screen, all over the place. And then there is a pretty durational time period for public comments. And that's where these things get defeated if they're not good. I was saying before, I don't know if you were present, change the sequential evaluation process so that they could skip having to decide if you could do your past relevant work and go right to step 5 and deny you if the step 5 would have denied you instead of spending time on step 4. I think that was the Obama administration. So to make things speedier, they did that. And that actually wasn't a bad thing because I don't think, because it doesn't change the outcome. It just means a step that isn't going to let you win anyway, even if you would have passed that step, because you're going to fail at this bottom step 5. Why should they delve into that? It's like an expedited vocational, I don't know if the word's assessment, expedited vocational. Yeah, it's probably assessment, but it's a step 5 consideration. And skipping over step 4, when step 5 under their circumstances would get them denied anyway. So if step 5 would have them awarded, then they do have to do step 4. So it's tricky, and it's, I just don't like dirty pool, and I don't like it when it's played against disabled people who are stressed enough. So I fight tooth and nail against it, and it's something I do on the side. So I think people should be held accountable for that. So we kind of have to call them out. All right, next, Jets. Attorney Stephanie, you are great, and God bless you. I could use all the blessings I can get. Thank you, Jets. I live Titusville, Florida. The channel I live. You live in Titusville, Florida. Okay. I don't know what the rest of it means. The channel on YouTube, period. Did I miss some? Jeffrey Taylor's in the house. How you doing, bud? Good afternoon. Thank you for legitimate dissemination of useful information. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. Christina says, well, Attorney Stephanie, I just wanted to ask because all the other channels that I watch, they're like, hello, leave a 5-star and I never hear since. So I know. I don't know. I think when kind of like begging for, I don't know. It's hard enough to say, click like and subscribe, but you taught me I need to do that. And, you know, some other colleagues are like, you know, you really should be. I'm like, okay, but really my goal here is really the goal is for the information and the ability to ask questions and have someone at least kind of address them for you. And then the secondary goal is that 1% thing, you know, and helping those wait lists to the extent we can. I mean, it's not like a million cases of extra help, but it's to the individuals that, you know, are able to be addressed because of it. I think they appreciate it. So, right. I'll be talking to you soon, Christina. Not today, but I mean, we got some things to do, right? There you go. Oh, well, that's nice. 33 likes. I'll take it. All right, guys, we have no other questions, right? And we're at 2. We definitely went over 2 hours. So I want to wish you all a great rest of your week. Hopefully YouTube will be able to process this and I'll have the replay that is cutting out a lot of the silent stuff up there for anybody who didn't get to be here today or wants to sit through it, but doesn't want to sit through all the does that. You know, I try to get them up Thursdays. I know sometimes YouTube's processing is very slow and it's going to be days later. In that case, it'll just be a recorded video. I think I did even one yesterday because something came up, but I don't know which one's coming up. I haven't really been following it, which is why I couldn't read to you guys any future ones. But anyway, have a great week, guys. Be safe. Good luck on your cases. Treat. And yeah, please do join us for our 12 o'clock shares and every Wednesday, the 1 o'clock live Q&A. And I will be thinking about you all and wishing you all the best. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.